আপনারা দেখছেন টকিং পয়েন্ট।
সৌজন্যে মাহবুব এন্ড কো অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টস।
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking with our distinguished guest today, Mr. Amin, about his filmmaking career. Yes, Mr. Amin, we were talking about what really triggered you. You came out to this country and then you worked in the British film industry, and then later you decided that you should join the British Film and Television Institutes, right?
Yes, but let me just add, when I in the early 70s, I ended up in East London.
Right.
It was an extremely volatile part of the country because of the racism, and
right.
as a little boy,
right.
and we couldn't go beyond 1 square mile.
Mm-hmm.
So basically all the youth, we formed kind of protesting against the racism, and a lot of protest.
Was
and
it
all
like
that.
a vigilante group?
Yes, I wouldn't call ourselves a vigilante, but it's kind of protecting your own community.
Mm-hmm.
We started doing martial art and formed a community organization.
Mm-hmm.
The first, one of the first youth organization is called Progressive Youth Organization.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, at the same time, other parallel organizations mushroomed like Youth Movement and Youth Approach and many other organizations in the East End. So,
what was the main intention of those organizations?
Intention to get all these people together, but in those days those organizations were partly youth activities,
right.
means kind of getting youth together and some kind of pleasure tip and that kind of thing.
Right.
That was mainly.
Right.
But at the same time we are doing martial art, practicing
right.
martial art to protect ourselves.
Right.
Then slowly kind of awareness kind of grew, and then political protest.
Right.
Some of us became kind of a local politician.
Right.
So all that kind of form and protest were going, but I didn't for a single moment gave up my film interest.
Right.
While all this happening, I started kind of running around with a small camera. I went to the dog market in those days.
Mm-hmm.
There was a beautiful eastern market, and a part of the market used to call dog market, and I bought a small camera for £5, kind of a movie camera, and I started filming, and so all that kind of, I was continuously kind of kept my dream of filmmaking alive.
Mm-hmm.
As all these things happening, I came out of school, and then straight away I went to the British film industry.
Right.
Worked as a trainee for many years, became a film editor, and also kind of started learning all these other aspects of filmmaking.
Right, right.
But at the same time, of course, I had a great kind of interest to pursue my further education. I went to the evening colleges, done other degrees on, as a certain subject, like English literature, philosophy, sociology, and photography. I continued. And then as I kind of started working in industry, I also made 2 documentaries.
This photography was cinematography?
Still photography.
Still
Firstly, I started still photography. While I was doing that, also I found a film workshop in East London at that time on Bethnal Green Road called Four Corner Cinema Hall. And in Four Corner, I also started attending, and there were a kind of 4 professional filmmakers. So I was very fortunate to kind of to become part of the Four Corner, and also
right.
kind of film appreciation. I was part of that group, and also they are making some small films.
Well, we'll cut the long story short, and we'll come to your career starting making films,
Yes.
Because
so
we want to share with our viewers
yes,
some of the clips that you have very kindly given us.
Yes, I personally made independently about 15 films,
right.
but these are kind of a small section of few of the films you can
right.
see. Yeah.
Right. Can we have the clip in a few minutes or in a few seconds, if you can? Can we? The first film that you made was sometime in 1980s?
79, called Purbo London. It was a short film, basically.
Right.
It was on a life of a young Bengali boy. A day's life on a young Bengali boy called Purbo London. I followed his journey and what he's doing, and what he does in spare time. And
in one day?
One day,
just one day.
Yeah, that's Purbo London.
Because some of the very famous and great films, they talk about only one day.
Yeah, exactly. Or even tiny fragments of life, you can make a big film, 3 hours film, just kind of concentrating.
It just depends on the treatment, the director, how he sees things.
Yes. How he sees and what he wants to talk about.
What was the Purbo
London.
Purbo London was about?
It's
just that a boy's
I mean, it's like one of us.
a day in the life of a.
Basically, the way we spent our life.
Right.
A lot of people in those days used to work in the garment industry.
Right.
By the way, right at the beginning of my time, I also did work in clothing industry. So
Right.
it was all over East End in a lot of clothing. So all the youths,
Right.
they used to work in clothing, tailoring factories.
Right.
So I covered as a young Bengali boy, and he's kind of working in the clothing factory. And what does he do in his spare time and his dream and aspiration? So he basically talked about
The
that.
harsh realities of life.
Life, yeah. So I captured that, kind of a 15 minutes film called Purbo London.
What was the response?
Response basically at that time, of course, that film was shown by the Whitechapel Art Gallery, and there many places it went. But what was the greatest response when I showed to Channel 4? They said, "Which film school did you go? It looks like a graduation film." I said, "I never been to film school. I'd like to go to film school." Of course, at that time I applied to film school, and I failed to kind of enter into film school, National Film and Television School. So they said, "Do you have any other ideas? You are a perfectly professional filmmaker." And I says, "Yes." So they asked me to submit few more ideas.
Right.
So that and the next film which I did, Flame in My Heart, a documentary, half-an-hour documentary for Channel 4. That was my first broadcast film in 1983. And what is really kind of...
Can we have that, just one clip or one part of that before the break?
I love the East End. The East End markets like Petticoat Lane and Whitechapel. We're always in Whitechapel. And Bethnal Green. It's home now, and I just love it. When I'm with my mum and my sister, I love going to Green Street because the whole atmosphere is it's just brilliant. The vibe, the kind of, the Indian music and the smell of food and the lovely, gorgeous, expensive dresses.
For over 8,000 years, the region of Bengal has been united by its language and its culture. Bengal has been ruled by many emperors, Buddhists, Hindus, and in the 13th century, Turkish and Mughal invaders, bringing with them the Islamic faith. The majority of Bangladeshis living in Britain today are Muslims, although there are also Hindu, Buddhist, and Christian Bangladeshis.
About my films.
Okay, we will have to stop here, and then when we come back, we might as well see the remainder of the clip. It's a fascinating journey of yours, watching so many clips and of so many films. Just tell me something about, you have made so many films. What was this about this movie wala?
Movie wala, basically, one of the things, if you kind of look at the mainstream television here, often you will see a lot of representation about Indian cinema.
Yes.
They used to show, I don't know whether nowadays, and I don't really watch very much, but they used to show series of Hindi cinema, then kind of a lot of talks about Bollywood and all that.
Yes.
And I was sitting here, I said, oh my God, I came from a country which is a rich heritage of cinema.
Yes.
We grew up, sort of like made more than 100 films. We produced wonderful filmmaker, I'm talking about early, before the liberation.
Right.
And nobody knows, the world doesn't know anything about our cinema, that heritage, and there's wonderful filmmakers, like Johir Khan Atta, Subhash Dutto, and
but you're talking about the people who were, rather who are. Well, in the next segment, inshallah, we'll talk about...
We'll talk about that,
we can talk about that. This movie wala,
so basically, I thought of covering a documentary on the history of Bangladesh cinema, basically, history of the Bangladesh film. So I went to Channel 4, and they basically were so...
that was sometime in 1993, isn't it?
No, 91. 91. And
it had two parts.
No, one part. Movie wala is one part.
Movie wala is one part.
One part. I mean, of course, in the television series they had many other films, but it was part of a series of films, so on my film was half an hour, 35mm film.
Right.
And, 30 minutes film. And that film kind of, I went there to cover the history of cinema. But what I found, many people in Bangladesh couldn't speak English, in the industry basically, FDC.
Right. Right.
I did talk to the star and, performer.
Things have not changed much. Things have not changed much.
I think the young filmmaker are, very much equipped, But in those days, I'm talking in 91.
Yeah.
I did meet them and I said, okay, I'm making a documentary, this is the subject matter. You'll talk about your film and all the industry and the great heritage. And I found, it's extremely difficult for them to speak English. Right. Then I decided to change my idea. So I took a rickshaw puller and observed him, and he talked about...
Thank you very much. We'll have to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about this rickshaw puller and his story. Thank you guys for being with us. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue with our very interesting discussion with our distinguished guest today, Mr. Ruhul Amin, filmmaker. Okay, thank you.
আপনারা দেখছেন টকিং পয়েন্ট।
সৌজন্যে মাহবুব এন্ড কো অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টস।